The Greedy Milkman. Once upon a time in a quaint little village there lived a milkman named Henry and his devoted wife Gloria. Together this industrious couple owned a cowshed where they meticulously cared for all their cows. They ensured their animals were fed good hay and nursed them well, a dedication that resulted in all of Henry's cows producing milk of excellent quality. The villagers recognized this superior product, and everyone in the village would only purchase milk from Henry. As a result, Henry and Gloria earned a comfortable living and led a good life. However, despite their prosperity and comfortable existence, Henry was not content. He harbored grand ambitions and frequently dreamt of acquiring a massive house and possessing opulent clothing. One day, he excitedly shared his vision with Gloria, declaring, "I saw a big house on the outskirts of our village. We should buy that. We can get a very expensive car and many servants to serve us. We will wear the most expensive clothes, and all these poor villagers will be jealous of us." Gloria, sensing the danger in his desires, gently cautioned him, saying, "This greed will take you nowhere. We earn enough, and we should be happy with what we have." But Henry dismissed her wisdom, complaining about their modest abode and the incessant smell of the cows. Even though it was their very livelihood, he was resolute in his ambition, proclaiming, "Not for long, mark my words, someday I will be the richest man in this whole village." Each day as Henry went about his milk-selling rounds, the villagers would commend him on the quality of his product. They would often exclaim, "Henry, this milk is so good and healthy. You must be taking such good care of your cows." Henry would respond with a quick, "Oh yes, yes I do," but secretly he looked forward to a day when he would be so wealthy that he could sell all his cows simply to escape the smell he disliked in his house. A neighbor who made a living selling eggs tried to offer a different perspective, noting that his own job was also smelly, but he didn't mind it as it was his work and helped him survive. Henry, however, pompously retorted that perhaps his neighbor was meant to sell eggs, but Henry was meant to do bigger things, to buy expensive items and expensive clothes. The neighbor reiterated his warning about greed, advising, "This greed will take you nowhere, my friend. The sooner you understand that, the better." Unmoved, Henry impatiently left, eager to find ways to earn more money. Henry was always in a hurry to amass more wealth, constantly seeking methods to become rich. He felt that his current earnings were very less and pondered how he could sell more milk. He considered pushing his healthy cows to yield more, but then realized that even with more milk his small village might not have enough customers. He thought about venturing to the neighboring village where there were many families, but then he would need to purchase another cow, and at that moment he lacked the funds. He was determined to buy a bigger house and felt he had to do something. As he walked lost in thought, he stumbled upon a river. It was there, overwhelmed by his consuming greed, that Henry conceived a cunning plan. "How about I mix a little water in the milk?" He mused. He reasoned that this would negate the need to buy another cow, and simultaneously, he would have enough volume to sell milk to the neighboring village. He convinced himself it was a brilliant idea and that nobody would notice if I had just a little water in it, and so Henry put his deceitful plan into action. The very next morning he began filling his containers with milk, but this time he deliberately filled them only halfway. He then proceeded to the river where he added water to complete the containers. That day, just like any other, the unsuspecting villagers happily purchased milk from Henry and paid him the customary amount. Due to the added water, Henry had a surplus of milk, which he then successfully sold in the neighboring village. That night Henry was exultant. He thought, "This is great. If I carry on like this, I will become very rich soon." And he was indeed right. Days turned into weeks, and Henry's wealth grew. He purchased a car for himself and significantly renovated his house. He became so accustomed to the dishonest practice of adding water to the milk that the thought of buying another cow never even crossed his mind. As the demand for his milk continued to climb, so too did the proportion of water he added to it. This practice continued for several weeks, but eventually the villagers began to notice whispers and chatter about the new watery milk spread throughout the village. Wanting to uncover the truth, a few villagers gathered outside Henry's house to confront him. "What's the matter, Henry?" they inquired. "We have some complaints about the milk you sell. It tastes like water." Henry feigned outrage, retorting, "What? How dare you say that?" The villagers stood firm, declaring, "We pay for milk, Henry, not water. You can't fool us anymore." Henry, still feigning innocence, insisted, "Nothing has changed. You all cannot appreciate the goodness I work really hard. Go buy from somewhere else. If you don't like it, I don't need you. I have many other villagers who love the milk I sell." With that, Henry abruptly darted inside his house and slammed the door. The villagers were utterly shocked by Henry's rude and arrogant behavior. They agreed amongst themselves that something isn't right and resolved to uncover the truth. The very next morning the villagers put their plan into action. Henry, unaware that he was being watched, followed his usual routine. Walking towards the river, he opened his half-filled containers and proceeded to fill them with water from their hidden vantage point. The villagers observed his actions. Their faces hardened as they silently exclaimed, "How dare he? This is not fair. This is how he is getting richer. He has the same number of cows, and yet he is selling milk to so many families." The full extent of Henry's deception became clear to them, and they collectively decided to teach the greedy milkman a profound lesson. The retribution began swiftly. The very next day Gloria went to the market to purchase pulses. That night, when Henry returned from work, they sat down for dinner. As Gloria served the pulses, Henry exclaimed, "What is that? Did you conquer the stones?" Gloria responded, "Stones? No, these are pulses." Henry incredulously countered, "No, they are not. I don't believe this. The vendor sold you some all stones along with the pulses. How dare he? I will go see him tomorrow." That night Henry and Gloria went to bed with empty stomachs. The following morning Henry angrily confronted the pulse vendor. "What did you sell us?" he demanded. "We didn't pay for stones. We paid for pulses." In a striking moment of poetic justice, the vendor calmly retorted with Henry's own words, "Go buy from somewhere else. If you don't like it, I don't need you." Henry, seething, returned home a short while later. Henry went out to buy a dozen eggs. When he came back home and attempted to crack them, he was enraged to discover that 10 of the 12 eggs were in fact rocks. Furious, he rushed back to the egg vendor. "What did you sell me?" he fumed. "I paid for eggs, not rocks." The egg vendor, like the pulse vendor, mirrored Henry's past arrogance, stating, "The same way that we paid for milk and not water. Go buy from somewhere else. If you don't like it, I don't need you." Henry, left speechless, departed angrily. The cycle of retribution continued. The next day Henry bought a silk shirt. On his way home it began to rain, and the water startlingly washed away all the color of his new shirt. When he arrived home, he realized with dismay that the shirt was not made of silk at all, but of course jute. This bewildering pattern persisted for a few days. Each time Henry ventured out to purchase something, he would return home with an item that was either different from what he paid for or of appallingly low quality. He grew incredibly frustrated, muttering, "I am tired of this. Why can't they sell us the right thing? Why are fooling us? This isn't fair." Ironically, Henry was so consumed by his own thoughts and his insatiable greed that he failed to recognize he had inflicted the exact same deception upon others. Over time, the consequences of his actions became undeniable. Slowly, even the neighboring villages, once his new market, stopped purchasing milk from Henry, with no money left to spend, Henry was forced to sell off the very items he had acquired with the ill-gotten gains from selling his low-quality watered-down milk. He was now a poor milkman, left with only a handful of cows and a mere few houses to whom he could still sell milk. It was at this low point that Gloria, ever the voice of reason, finally made him see the truth. "Now you realize what you have done," she stated. "Your greed is the reason we are poor. Had you continued selling good milk the way you used to, we could have bought a bigger house and expensive clothes someday. All you had to do is keep patience and continue working hard." Henry, humbled by his plight and Gloria's unwavering wisdom, remorsefully agreed. "I agree, Gloria," he confessed. "I should have listened to you. I didn't just lose my money, I also lost respect and trust of the people." From that day forward, Henry continued to sell milk and diligently tend to his cows. He had profoundly learned how dangerous greed could be. He never again added water to the milk and found contentment and happiness in what he honestly earned. Analysis of the Greedy Milkman. The story of the Greedy Milkman serves as a poignant fable illustrating the destructive nature of unchecked greed and the inevitable consequences of dishonesty. From the outset, Henry and Gloria are depicted as hard-working individuals who lead a comfortable life, a testament to their diligent care for their cows and the excellent quality milk they produce, which earns them the villagers' trust and custom. However, Henry's deep-seated dissatisfaction with his current prosperity, despite its adequacy, forms the primary catalyst for the narrative. Unfolding. His dreams are not of gradual improvement or sustainable growth, but of sudden extravagant wealth. A large house, expensive cars, numerous servants and lavish clothing, all fueled by a desire to evoke jealousy in his neighbors. This desire, as Gloria wisely points out, is a form of greed that will lead him nowhere. Her warnings highlight the tension between contentment with what one has and the insatiable craving for more, a central theme of the story. Henry's decision to adulterate his milk by mixing it with water marks his descent into unethical practices. This act is not born out of desperation but out of a calculated, greedy desire to expand his business without investing in more resources like additional cows. The initial success of his deceit, where he becomes richer, buys a car and renovates his house, serves to reinforce his bad habit, leading him to increase the proportion of water as demand grows. This period highlights a crucial point. Mrs. Dishonesty can yield short-term gains, creating an illusion of success. However, the quality of his product inevitably deteriorates to the point where it becomes noticeable, leading to murmurs and then direct complaints from the villagers. Henry's rude and defensive reaction to these complaints, telling customers to buy elsewhere, showcases his arrogance and lack of self-awareness, further alienating those who once trusted him. The turning point occurs when the villagers, shocked by Henry's behavior and the poor quality of the milk, decide to uncover the truth. Their observation of Henry adding water to the milk at the river is a moment of revelation, confirming his fraud and prompting their collective decision to teach him a lesson. The subsequent events, where Henry experiences the very same deceit he perpetrated on others, are a vivid demonstration of karmic justice. He buys pulses mixed with stones, eggs that are mostly rocks, and a silk shirt that turns out to be jute. Each instance is not merely an inconvenience but a direct reflection of his own actions, driven home by the vendors using his own dismissive phrases back at him. The irony is profound. Mrs. Henry himself complains bitterly about being fooled and not getting what he paid for, yet remains oblivious to his own hypocrisy. His inability to connect these experiences to his own behavior is a significant aspect of his character, underscoring how greed can blind an individual to their own moral failings and the impact of their actions on others. He is so engrossed in his own plight that he fails to recognize the mirroring of his own actions. The story culminates in Henry's complete loss of business wealth and, most importantly, the respect and trust of his community. This downfall is not inflicted by an external force but is a direct consequence of his choices. Gloria's final words to Henry serve as the moral backbone of the story, emphasizing that his greed was the root cause of their poverty. She reiterates that patience and hard work were the keys to sustainable prosperity, a path Henry abandoned for quick, dishonest gains. Henry's eventual realization and admission of guilt. Acknowledging T. Had he lost not only money but also the trust and respect of the people, signify his learning the harsh lesson, his return to honest work, never again adding water to the milk, and finding contentment in what he earns signifies his redemption and the story's ultimate message. The narrative effectively illustrates that true wealth and happiness are not solely found in material possessions, but in integrity, trust, and the satisfaction derived from honest labor.